Most men think when a woman never makes the first move, it means she isn't interested. But the truth is far more complicated and far more unsettling, because sometimes the woman who never initiates is the one thinking about you the most. Here's something most people never talk about openly. Attraction between men and women doesn't operate on the same psychological wiring. Men often express desire through direct action. They initiate, pursue, make their intentions clear. Women, on the other hand, are often conditioned to move differently. Their attraction reveals itself through signals, energy, attention, not always through bold moves. And when you misunderstand that difference, something dangerous happens. You begin assuming silence means indifference, when in reality, silence may simply mean hesitation. Let's start with the first truth that changes everything. For many women, initiating romantic or intimate moments is not just about desire, it's about emotional safety. A woman's mind constantly evaluates the emotional environment around her, not in a dramatic way, but in subtle psychological calculations that happen beneath awareness. Is this person emotionally stable? Will I be respected? Will my interest be valued or rejected? These questions may never be spoken out loud, but they quietly influence behavior. You see, attraction in a woman is rarely just physical. It is layered with emotional context. Her brain is asking not only, do I feel drawn to him, but also, is this safe for me to express? And safety in this context doesn't mean danger. It means vulnerability. Making the first move requires vulnerability. It means stepping forward without knowing how someone will respond. It means revealing interest before receiving confirmation. For many women, that moment feels psychologically risky. Because if that vulnerability is rejected or misunderstood, it doesn't just feel like a failed action. It can feel like a personal exposure. So instead of initiating directly, many women communicate desire in more indirect ways. Eye contact that lingers a little longer than necessary, small gestures that invite conversation, a tone of voice that softens when speaking with you, moments where she positions herself close enough to be noticed. These signals are rarely random. They are invitations. But here's the part that confuses most men. An invitation is not the same thing as initiation. She may be creating opportunities for connection while still waiting for you to step forward. Not because she lacks desire, but because the psychology of attraction for many women is deeply tied to emotional dynamics. Think of it like a dance. One partner signals openness. The other partner steps forward. And when that rhythm works, the connection builds naturally. But when both people wait for the other to move first, the dance never begins. Now here's another truth that often surprises people. Women are not simply avoiding the first move because of tradition or social conditioning, although that plays a role. They are also responding to a deeper instinct. Attraction often grows when a woman sees a man take confident initiative, not aggressive initiative, not pressure, but calm, grounded leadership in the moment. When a man notices the signals and responds with confidence, it creates a powerful psychological effect. It tells her subconscious something important. He is aware, he is confident, he is willing to step forward. These qualities activate attraction at a deeper level than most people realize. Confidence signals emotional stability. Initiative signals interest. And when those two appear together, a woman's brain often interprets them as signs of strength and clarity. But here's the mistake many men make. They assume if a woman doesn't initiate, she must not feel desire. And that assumption can quietly destroy connection, because sometimes the reason she never makes the first move has nothing to do with lack of attraction. Sometimes it has everything to do with how she has been treated before. Past experiences shape behavior more than most people realize. A woman who once initiated and felt embarrassed, ignored, or rejected may become far more cautious in the future. Not because she lost her desire, but because her mind learned that vulnerability can carry emotional cost. So instead of risking that feeling again, she adapts. She becomes more subtle, more observant, more patient. She waits to see if the man she's interested in will notice the signals she's quietly sending. And if he doesn't, she may walk away believing the interest wasn't mutual. This silent misunderstanding happens in relationships every single day. Two people attracted to each other, both waiting for clarity, both afraid of misreading the moment, And because no one moves first, the connection slowly fades before it ever begins. But this is only the surface of the psychology, because the deeper reasons a woman may never initiate are far more complex than simple hesitation. Sometimes the answer lies in how she feels about herself. Sometimes it lies in the emotional dynamic between the two of you. And sometimes it lies in something men rarely think about at all, how emotionally connected she actually feels in your presence. Because attraction without emotional connection rarely creates the kind of desire that motivates someone to take initiative. And once you understand that difference, the entire situation begins to look very different, not as rejection, but as a signal about how the emotional dynamic between you is truly working. There is something most men never realize about attraction. For a woman, desire rarely begins with the body, it begins with the mind. And if the emotional atmosphere between you isn't activating that part of her psychology, she may never feel the impulse to make the first move, no matter how much she enjoys your company. This is the second truth many people overlook. Initiation is often a reflection of emotional energy, not just attraction, not just interest, but the feeling she experiences when she's around you. Think about the moments in life when you felt naturally drawn towards someone. There was usually a certain tension in the air, a spark in the conversation, a rhythm that made interaction feel exciting instead of routine. That emotional charge is what fuels initiative. Without it, connection becomes comfortable but passive. And when a relationship or interaction falls into that passive zone, something subtle happens inside a woman's mind. She stops feeling the urge to move things forward, not because she dislikes you, but because the emotional chemistry hasn't reached the level where her instincts begin pushing her toward action. Many men assume attraction is created through logical things: being successful, being kind, being reliable, having interesting conversations. All of those things matter, but none of them automatically create the emotional tension that sparks desire. Desire thrives in emotional contrast, a mix of playfulness and seriousness. Confidence balanced with curiosity, moments where she feels both comfortable and slightly intrigued by what you might say or do next. When those elements are present, her brain becomes engaged. When they're absent, the interaction can feel predictable, and predictable interactions rarely inspire bold moves. Here's something fascinating about human psychology. Our minds are naturally drawn toward mystery and discovery. When something feels slightly unpredictable, the brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with anticipation and excitement. That anticipation is one of the strongest drivers of attraction. If every interaction between you and a woman feels emotionally flat or routine, her brain simply doesn't enter that excited state. She may enjoy talking with you, she may respect you, she may even care about you, but the spark that creates initiative remains dormant. Now let's go even deeper. Another reason many women don't make the first move has nothing to do with attraction at all. It has to do with how they perceive your confidence. A woman's subconscious mind constantly scans for signs of emotional strength. Not dominance or arrogance, but grounded self-assurance. When she senses uncertainty in a man, something interesting happens. She may begin holding back even more. Because initiating requires stepping into a vulnerable position. If she feels unsure about your emotional stability or your clarity of interest, her mind may choose caution instead of boldness. It becomes a silent psychological loop. You hesitate because you're unsure of her interest. She hesitates because she senses your hesitation, and the connection stays stuck in neutral. But when a man carries calm confidence, something shifts. His energy communicates clarity without needing words. He makes decisions naturally. He expresses interest without overthinking it. And that stability creates an emotional environment where attraction can grow more freely. This is why you'll often notice a pattern. When a woman feels deeply attracted to someone who radiates confidence and emotional presence, she may begin showing far more initiative than usual. Not always through obvious moves, but through behaviors that bring her closer to you. She may start conversations more frequently. She may find reasons to spend time together. She may create opportunities for deeper connection. These actions are her version of initiating, just expressed through a different psychological language. And here is something many people overlook. Sometimes a woman stops initiating because she has already tried, in her own way, and felt unnoticed. Remember those subtle signals we talked about earlier? Eye contact, playful teasing, lingering attention, invitations to spend time together. If those signals are ignored or misunderstood repeatedly, she may interpret that as lack of interest. At that point, her mind quietly pulls back, not out of resentment, but out of self-protection. No one enjoys feeling like their effort went unseen. So instead of continuing to send signals, she becomes more neutral, more reserved, more focused on maintaining emotional balance rather than pursuing deeper connection. From the outside, it can look like she simply isn't interested, but in reality, the story might be very different. She may have once been open to moving things forward, and slowly convinced herself that the feeling wasn't mutual. This is why emotional awareness in relationships is so powerful. When you begin noticing the subtle ways attraction expresses itself, you stop relying on obvious signals alone. You start recognizing the quiet language of human behavior, and that awareness allows you to respond with confidence rather than confusion. But even all of this still doesn't explain the most surprising reason a woman might never make the first move. Because sometimes the real issue has nothing to do with attraction, confidence, or emotional tension. Sometimes it has everything to do with something much deeper, how valued she feels in your presence. And that single factor can completely change the way a woman expresses her desire. There is a deeper layer to this conversation that many people avoid talking about, because it forces you to look beyond attraction and ask a more uncomfortable question. Does she actually feel valued when she's around you? You might assume the answer is obvious. After all, you spend time together, you talk, you laugh, maybe you even share personal moments. But emotional value is not measured by proximity. It's measured by how someone feels in your presence. And this is where many relationships quietly lose their spark without either person understanding why. When a woman feels genuinely valued, something shifts inside her psychology. Her guard lowers. Her confidence in the connection grows. She feels seen, appreciated, and emotionally safe enough to express herself more openly. But when that feeling is missing, even slightly, the mind begins pulling back. Not dramatically, not with confrontation, but in quiet ways that are easy to miss. She becomes less expressive, less spontaneous, less willing to take emotional risks. And initiating intimacy or affection is one of the biggest emotional risks a person can take. Think about what initiating really means. It means stepping forward and saying, without words, I want you, I'm drawn to you, I'm opening a door. If she doesn't feel emotionally valued, that door suddenly feels much heavier to open. Because if the response feels indifferent, distracted, or lukewarm, the vulnerability behind that action can feel exposed. So instead, she waits. She watches how you treat her attention. She notices whether you listen when she speaks. She observes whether your focus is present or divided. These details may seem small, but to the emotional brain they carry enormous weight. When a woman feels that her presence truly matters to you, her mind begins relaxing into the connection. And when that relaxation happens, initiative becomes easier. But when she senses that your attention is inconsistent, distracted, or half-engaged, something else happens. Her emotional investment slows down, not intentionally, but naturally. Human beings instinctively move toward environments where they feel appreciated and away from environments where they feel overlooked. This is true for men, and it's equally true for women. Another hidden factor that affects whether she initiates is emotional polarity. Attraction often grows when two people naturally complement each other's energy. One person may lead in certain moments, while the other responds with openness and enthusiasm. But when both people become passive at the same time, that polarity disappears. The connection becomes friendly, comfortable, even warm. But the spark that drives romantic momentum begins fading. Many couples experience this without realizing it. They still care about each other. They still enjoy each other's company. But neither person feels the impulse to push the connection forward anymore. The relationship slowly settles into routine, and routine, while stable, rarely inspires bold emotional actions like initiating intimacy. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Sometimes a woman stops making the first move not because attraction disappeared, but because she no longer feels desired. Desire is deeply reciprocal. When a woman feels that a man genuinely wants her, Through his attention, his energy, his presence, her own desire often grows stronger. But when she begins feeling like she is simply part of the background of your life, that desire weakens, not out of resentment, but out of emotional logic. Why initiate connection if the energy isn't clearly being returned? This doesn't mean you must constantly prove attraction through dramatic gestures. In fact, the opposite is often true. Small moments of genuine attention carry far more emotional impact. Looking up when she enters the room, listening without immediately shifting the conversation, remembering details she once mentioned casually, these actions signal something powerful. You matter here. And when that message becomes clear, the psychological environment changes. Confidence replaces hesitation, curiosity replaces caution, and initiative begins appearing naturally. But there is still one final piece of the puzzle, because even when attraction exists, even when emotional value is present, even when the connection feels strong, a woman may still wait for the man to make the first move, not out of fear, not out of uncertainty, but because deep within the psychology of attraction, there is a powerful dynamic that shapes how desire flows between two people. And once you understand that final dynamic, you stop seeing her silence as rejection. You begin seeing it for what it often truly is, an invitation waiting to be answered. Here is the truth that most people never hear explained clearly. Sometimes a woman doesn't make the first move because the psychology of attraction is built around a dynamic that has existed for centuries. Not because of rigid rules or outdated expectations, but because of how human desire naturally responds to confidence and leadership in emotional moments. For many women, attraction deepens when a man is willing to step forward first, not aggressively, not with pressure, but with calm certainty. When a man confidently expresses interest, he removes the uncertainty that many women quietly carry. He shows that he is aware of the connection and willing to take responsibility for moving it forward. And that small act can have a powerful psychological impact because clarity creates safety. When a woman sees that you are comfortable acknowledging attraction instead of dancing around it, her mind relaxes. She no longer has to analyze signals or wonder whether she misread the moment. The emotional tension that once made her hesitant suddenly becomes excitement instead. But this is where many men misunderstand the situation. They think making the first move means delivering perfect lines or orchestrating dramatic romantic gestures. In reality, it's much simpler than that. Initiative is an energy. It's the way you show up in the interaction, the calm confidence in your voice, the way you hold eye contact when speaking to her, the ease with which you express appreciation or curiosity about who she is. Those subtle behaviors communicate something powerful. I'm not afraid of this connection. And when that message is clear, something interesting begins to happen. She starts responding differently. Her body language opens up more. Her attention lingers longer. Her laughter becomes easier and more natural. Eventually, she may begin initiating in her own ways as well. But notice something important here. Her initiative often grows. After. The emotional environment feels safe and energized. That's the dynamic many people misunderstand. Attraction between two people is rarely symmetrical in the beginning. One person often leads the emotional momentum while the other responds. And when that rhythm feels natural, the roles begin balancing out over time. This doesn't mean women are incapable of making the first move. Many do. But in countless interactions, women are watching for something first. Authentic confidence. Confidence that isn't forced or performative, but calm and grounded. Because confidence communicates stability, and stability creates the emotional safety that allows desire to flourish. But there's one more piece that deserves attention. Sometimes the reason she doesn't initiate has nothing to do with you at all. She may be protecting her emotional energy. Past relationships, disappointments, or moments where her openness wasn't valued can quietly shape how she behaves in the present. When someone has experienced those moments, their mind often develops a protective instinct. They become more observant, more patient, more selective about when they reveal interest. From the outside, this can look like disinterest, but internally, it may simply be caution. And that caution often disappears when someone consistently demonstrates respect, attention, and emotional maturity. Because trust is built through patterns, not promises. When your actions repeatedly show that you value her presence and respect her boundaries, the psychological walls she once relied on begin to soften. And when those walls soften, initiative often appears naturally, not forced, not calculated, but genuine. She begins reaching out first sometimes. She creates opportunities to spend time together. She invests energy in maintaining the connection. At that point, the relationship dynamic shifts from uncertainty to collaboration. Two people moving toward each other instead of waiting for the other to move first. And this brings us back to the central truth behind everything we've discussed. When a woman never makes the first move, it doesn't automatically mean she lacks attraction. Sometimes it means she's waiting to see confidence. Sometimes it means she needs emotional safety. Sometimes it means past experiences taught her to move carefully. And sometimes it simply means she's expressing interest in ways that many men never learned to recognize. Understanding these psychological layers changes everything. Instead of interpreting silence as rejection, you begin seeing the signals beneath the surface. You recognize the invitations hidden inside small gestures, the curiosity in her questions, the warmth in her attention. And when you respond to those signals with calm confidence, something powerful happens. The connection begins to grow naturally. No pressure, no confusion. Just two people gradually realizing that the attraction between them is real. Now I want to ask you something honest. In your past relationships or experiences, have you ever assumed a woman wasn't interested, only to realize later that she might have been waiting for you to make the first move? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else understand their situation a little better. And if this video helped you see attraction and relationships from a deeper psychological perspective, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who might need to hear this. Because sometimes the smallest insight about human behavior can completely change the way we understand each other.